Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the 6 signs that show you have too much debt and really how to pay it off, get it down, consolidate it, things of that nature we're going to be going through. So if you're like many Americans, debt has risen as we see interest rates go up. As the Fed continues to increase rates, minimum payments on things get a lot more expensive, and debt is more expensive than it has ever been. Now, you are not alone, guys. The average debt balance of big ticket items like mortgages, student loans, auto loans has climbed to $101,000. That is right. We are over $100,000 on the average debt balances on big ticket items. Even looking at credit card debt, we are almost at $6,000 per individual, which is crazy. Student loans round out about $40,000 per individual for student loans. A big thing with this, guys, is does the debt really make a difference? Does it make a difference to pay off? If you look at the debt, really ranking it, a 3% interest rate on a student loan, a mortgage, something like that, is a lot easier when you're looking at paying it off or getting it down over, let's say, a credit card that's 20, 25, 30% rate, which is huge. But at one point, guys, is debt too much debt? Now, here are the 6 signs that show that you're out of control when it comes to debt. Number 1, you cannot save for an emergency fund. So we know, and I've talked about this a lot, guys, it is really foundational. The building blocks when it comes to personal finance, when it comes to financial counselors, when it comes to anything, it is really getting that emergency fund. Now, Dave Ramsey focuses on the 1,000 baby step. Number 1, getting the emergency fund or saving that first 1,000. Now, ideally, you want to save up for an emergency fund before you start tackling the debt, because what is going to happen, guys, is if you set that $1,000 aside, any additional money can actually go to paying down your debt. What happens, though, is if you do not set that money aside, so let's say you are spending every single penny that you have for debt repayment, what happens the second that anything happens outside of the norm? You go back to racking up that debt again, and that is what we see, guys, focusing really on the highest interest rate down to the lowest rate, using the snowball effect, getting rid of those monthly obligations. And in my opinion, guys, that is one of the absolute biggest things that we see is not so much the debt, but it is the monthly liability to the debt. So when you look at a lot of things in life, not just debt itself, but when you look at expenses, it's the small things that really chip away at the ability to repay debt or to actually save money. When you look at subscriptions, when you look at monthly things kind of here and there, it seems like everyone is dipping into your paycheck to take $7 here, $10 there, $20 there, different memberships, even car washes have gotten into it, $20 for a car membership, gym memberships, everything of that nature is just chipping away on the balances. Now, number 2, you can only afford to make the minimum debt payments. Now, this is one, guys, that you will be stuck in an absolute perpetual cycle forever if you do not get this under control. If you're making the minimum payments, if some of the payments are $25, $50, whatever it is, when you look at your statement, it will tell you making the minimum payment, how long it is going to take you to pay off that debt. For a majority of Americans, it might say 12, 15, 19, 20 plus years making a minimum payment to pay back that debt, guys. That is because the interest rate is so high. Now, if you're like, again, a lot of people, you have also seen the minimum payments increase dramatically because of the interest rate. So again, the average credit card rate was 19%, then it went to 20 plus. Now I believe it is at 23% is the average when it comes to the debt. Number 3, guys, have you been denied for new credit? This is where your credit score has been getting out of control, or your debt to income ratios have been getting out of control. When you look at loans and credit cards, you're denied because, again, either the credit score or the debt to income ratio is looking to borrow new credit. Now, that means that you're looking to kind of overextend, which, as being a financial counselor, going through and really restructuring some of the debt and paying off some of the credit cards, consolidating the debt, even looking at, refinancing a mortgage, doing a home equity, things of that nature, they only work when you adjust the behaviors. So let me say that again, guys. If you're looking to do a consolidation, fundamentally something within your life has to change to realize why you got to that point and why you're never ever in your life going to get back to that point. Because what I see normally is people do a consolidation loan, 2 or 3 years down the road, they're doing that same consolidation loan. 2 or 3 more years down the road, they're doing the same consolidation loan, and the cycle of debt continues. They are literally never getting ahead because of the spending habits that they do possess. And number 4, opening new credit card accounts to pay old ones. Now, this is a old traditional method, guys, transferring card to card to card based on a 0% rate. You pay and you transfer it with the best of intentions. However, a majority of the cards do have a balance transfer fee, which again, depending on what it is, some of them are 3%, some of them are 5%, some of them are a little bit higher, again, depending. But all you're doing though is balance transfers, again, do require that, but you're just providing kind of a band-aid to your budget. And that is really fundamentally what you're looking at here, is moving it from one card to another and not knocking away that balance. So let's say you balance transfer from one card to another, $20,000 at a 0%. Okay, now theoretically, guys, you want that balance to be significantly lower. So let's say in the next 12 months, now your 0% is up, that $20,000 balance, you've worked down to, let's say, $12,000. That is a good case scenario, guys, because not only did you knock out $8,000 of the balance on that card at a 0%, if you're moving it to another one and continue the cycle, so you move it another 12 months to another 0% card, at the end of that cycle, you have 4,000 left, which you can just go ahead and finish out on that card. Again, if you're just moving debt, if you're just restructuring debt, if fundamentally you are not changing the behaviors to pay down and eliminate the debt will never go away, guys. Number 5, constantly being late on your bills. Now, this is one of the huge things, guys, because you cannot afford them. And also when you've hit your max of not being able to borrow anymore, if you're looking to take out of retirement accounts, we see a lot of people dipping into 401ks, dipping into IRAs, doing advances on credit cards to pay bills. That is a point, guys. Fundamentally, you need to sit down. You need to go over your budget. You need to see where you can cut. You really have 2 options. That is, 1, either cutting your expenses through budgeting or really being consistent about what you're spending, or 2, making more money, getting a part-time job, whatever it may be, to adjust your bills and get caught up. Now, the final one, guys, number 6, is your debt to income ratio is above 36%. Now, this is a general rule, guys, when it comes to finance, when it comes to lending. The higher your debt to income ratio, the more your earnings will go towards your debt. By having a significant portion of your income tied up, you have less flexibility to cover unexpected expenses and emergencies, which are 2 really big things. Lenders like to see debt to ratios under 36% when considering loan applications. The lower, the better. So what that means, guys, is essentially the amount of income that you have in relationship to your minimum payments on debt. Now, the 36% is a little bit on the lower side. Now, the logic between this or for this is when you do the calculations, and this is kind of something to keep in mind, they don't look at the total amount of debt when it comes to these ratios. It looks at the monthly expenses. So if you have 5 credit cards with a significant balance and the monthly payments, which credit card companies do this, keep the minimum payments low, your debt to income ratio will actually be lower or look lower, but in relationship to your debt, it is a lot more. This is the reason why when you do a lot of consolidation loans, where let's say your minimum payments on a credit card are $200, you move it to a consolidation loan at a much lower rate. All of a sudden that $200 payment goes to $275, $350, depending on the term, because you're going to be knocking out a majority or a vast, chunk of the principal balance that you are moving to that fixed rate, fixed term, which I love the consolidation loans, guys, because it can save you a lot of money. Again, being very consistent with it, but you have to change the spending habits and you have to stay out of debt. So what do you need to do if you have too much debt, guys? Whether it is your total debt or the ability to pay, discretionary spending has to be the first thing to go. When you look at our 50-30-20 rule, which we've talked about quite a bit, it is really the fundamental thing when it comes to discretionary spending, even if it is short term, suspending all of the things that are not a need, that are more of a want or are not a necessity. So reviewing your bills, looking at your loan statements, see what needs to be covered, shelter, food, discretionary, debt repayment, things of that nature. Use the budgeting worksheets that we've had. You can Google them. You can look on YouTube. There's an incredible amount of them. You can contact your lenders. You can contact your credit card providers. You can also shop around for things to get them cheaper. So a lot of people, don't know whether it is, banking, whether it is a lot of goods and services that you use. When you look at auto loans, can you get it cheaper? When you look at a mortgage, can you get it cheaper? When you look at insurance, can you find it cheaper? There are a lot of ways. It does take time and effort, guys, which I don't want you to lose hope, but it is very, very important. Now, in addition, there are a lot of nonprofits. Most of you know that I do work for a credit union, and I am a certified financial counselor. It is a free service we provide, guys. We will sit down, we will go through the budget, we will go through the debt management, we will come up with a plan. There are a lot of things that they can do for not-for-profits. Even locally in your areas, a lot of cities, a lot of counties do offer a lot of credit counseling programs that are completely free to you. Now, one thing, guys, is I want you to stay away from, and I'm really, really stressing this, stay away from the for-profit counseling organizations. When you look at a couple of those, they will charge you a fee to do things that you can do yourself, which I do not like. Some of them charge a percentage base, so they might charge you 5% of the bills they pay, 10% of the bills they pay. They are essentially taking you not being able to be disciplined and do it yourself, but they are charging you a fee on top of people that can usually not afford fees at that point. Now, the very last resort, guys, which is kind of the code red, is the bankruptcy. Definitely consult with a credit counselor, financial planner. The bankruptcy route is very, very detrimental for the short and the long term. When you look at your credit, when you look at the ability to lend, borrow, things of that nature, make sure you weigh all of your options when it does come to bankruptcy. So, all right, guys, that'll do it for today's video. Again, we covered the 6 signs you might have too much debt and a couple of ways to pay it off. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.